Hello lovely people, my name is Emma and today I'm doing a book haul for books I bought towards the kind of end of August and beginning of September. I'm not too sure exactly, I think my monthly book hauls have got horribly out of sync, but it's not really a problem. But basically we're moving house in about a week's time. I don't expect that I'm buying any more books in that time, and once I've moved I'm going to lose track as to what I bought where, so I thought I'd do a book haul now. This is kind of going to have two parts to it because I've read a few of the books that I've already hauled, so I'm going to put them at the end. So we're going to do the unread ones first and then the read ones towards the end because you'll be seeing them in like a wrap up fairly soon. So let's just jump in. I'm sat on my sofa, which means I don't have my normal organisation, but I'm feeling really tired today and I didn't want to stand up. So I've literally just got back from town and I went into Forbidden Planet and picked up two books. The first is Hollow Kingdom by Kira Jane Buxton. This is a zombie apocalypse book, I believe. Yes, a zombie apocalypse book, but it's told from the point of view of a domesticated crow, which is what makes it sound highly entertaining. And their author dies or potentially gets turned into a zombie, and it's about them venturing out into the wide world and trying to find a new home for themselves. I first heard about it on Jean from Jean Bookish Thoughts channel a while ago now, and I'm intrigued by it. I really enjoy books where the narrator is not a human, and I think this could be really good fun. Then the other one I picked up is Locke Key Volume 3, Crown of Shadows. This is by Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez. This is a like horror graphic novel, and it is kind of a weird freaky house, and there's all sorts of mystical keys, and there's some kind of like time travel aspect, I believe. Honestly, it's been a really long time since I read volume 1 and 2, but I want to continue with the series. So when I saw that they had the next one in the shop, it was a bit of an impulse buy, but I think it'll be a really good time to read it in with the spooky season. So that's kind of the motivation for these two in particular. Then I went to one of my all-time favourite bookstores, Toppy & Co, with my mum, and I bought a few books. The first one and the most exciting, I think, is Kindred, Neanderthal Life, Love, Death and Art by Wragg Sykes. This I actually saw promoted on Twitter from some of the various paleontologists that I follow, and this is I think potentially Wragg Sykes' first book, but it's specifically looking at Neanderthals, their what we know about them, their community, their life, and basically like trying to dispel the myth that they were these little sort of grunting cavemen who weren't very advanced and didn't really know anything, and also interactions between early Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, kind of what do we know there. It's well documented on this channel that I love myself a bit of prehistory and prehistoric content, and I think that this is going to be really exciting, so I'm looking forward to jumping into this one fairly soon. On that exact same shopping trip I also picked up A Forger's Tale, Confessions of the Bolton Forger, by Shaun. Is that Greenhalgh? Sorry, I've not really been looking at any of these before picking them up. This I looked at in the store like a year ago and very nearly bought, but put it down and actually sort of saw it again and was like, no, I'm going to get it this time. And it's about a guy who is in prison for several years for committing art forgery. He forged a whole bunch of different kinds of art, and I'm assuming it's going to be a conversation about art, the value of art, how one goes about forging, all the different techniques, as well as obviously his time in prison and kind of his story of how he was caught as such. I think it's going to be interesting. I really like true crime where it is a non-violent crime, so forgery is quite a common one, and I think it's going to tick off the box for both my true crime interest but also my art history interest, so I'm intrigued by this. A fiction that I picked up whilst I was in Toppy & Co is, ooh, I nearly threw that at my own face, is Waite is for Witching by Helen Oyeyemi. This is kind of a riffing off a sort of the haunted house idea. I believe it is also lesbian fiction, but please don't quote me on that, and it's something to do with two sisters and a house that refuses to let them go. I read Helen Oyeyemi's Mr. Fox years ago now and really didn't get along with it. It was very weird and sort of experimental fiction that I, especially at the time, was not very into, but I'm intrigued by this one and I've been meaning to give her another go because I think that she is a little bit hit or miss sometimes. And again, Jean Bookish Thoughts was talking about this one, I believe, relatively recently, and I thought it'd be a good one to pick up, especially with the creepy season coming up with October, so I will hopefully be prioritising quite soon. I do this around kind of September time. I start buying lots of creepy books, and then it gets to October and I can never quite read all of them, and then I just end up amassing more of them on my shelves, so I have to make sure I get to some spooky books this year. Then what else did I get in that particular book haul? That one, there we go. Then I also picked up Braiding, Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge and the Teaching of Plants by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Sorry, I should really check these before I talk to you people. This one was very, very popular in Springathon. I saw Justin from Triumphal Reads had read it and said that it was amazing. I think it's now in his like top books of the year kind of thing. It is a collection of essays and sort of conversations about nature, but the woman writing it is Indigenous and also a scientist, and it's kind of the melding of the two, which I think has been really interesting. I've only heard positive things about it, so when I saw it on the shelf I was like, right, I really want to grab that one as well. It's kind of Springathon highlight that I really want to get to soon, so that looks really cool. I picked up a couple of books that were on some yearly TBRs that I didn't actually have access to yet, so that I can try and get to them. So there's 2 translated fiction. The first one is Man Tiger by Eka Kurniawan. I'm so sorry, I should have done way more prep for this video, but I'm very, very tired and we have a lot more to do today, so we're just going to have unprepared, terrible Emma, and I deeply apologise for that. I can't actually remember anything about this one. It's set in Indonesia, that's all I can remember. I believe there is a lot of like folklore and mythology wrapped around the like tigers and sort of a tiger spirit in that side of the world. I read The Night Tiger by Yang Zi Chu a couple of years ago, or last year maybe, and that again has sort of a similar idea, so I think it's riffing off of that. That one was Malaysian, whereas this is Indonesian, but I believe that's a similar area in the world. So I'm excited. I know it's on one of my yearly TBRs, so at some point I was really interested in it as well, so apologies that I can't remember much about it. And then the other one that I have, which is a yearly TBR, is The Woman in the Dunes by Kobo Abe, and this is about a gentleman who goes to a small town. He's an entomologist, I believe. He's trying to study the insects in the dunes, and then one day he wakes up and he's been buried in the dunes next to a woman like up to his head, and they've both been buried there, I believe. And yeah, it generally, yes, he's been imprisoned, and generally it all sounds very interesting. I believe this is Japanese literature. Some very noisy motorbikes. I believe this is Japanese literature, and it's kind of sort of a modern classic as such, so I'm intrigued to check it out. I've generally been enjoying a lot of the work I've been reading out of Japan, so I'm excited. Then we have, let's talk about this one. This one is Silver Sword and Stone by Marie Arana. This is a non-fiction history book looking at Latin America, and it's specifically focused on 3 particular sort of almost like micro-history, lensing in on a particular character, person from history or a particular area to explore sort of Latin American history in general. I think it's going to be really interesting, and each one kind of covers silver, sword and stone, and by that it is like mining and sort of commerce, war and religion. It's sort of the idea between those sort of conversations it's having there. This was one that a few people were reading in the history challenge, and I had kind of on my radar for the history challenge, so given I've managed to clear my shelves of a decent number of history books through the history challenge, naturally I have to buy a bunch more to fulfill it. So this is the first one I've picked up since the history challenge. I'm excited for this. I think it's stunning as a cover, so I'm really looking forward to it. Then we have a spur of the moment purchase whilst I was in the supermarket recently, and I thought it was a completely different book to what it actually was, so that's helpful. This is Traces by Patricia Wiltshire. This is the memoir of a leading forensic scientist and a criminal investigator. So I'm psyched that I have this one. It looks really interesting, and I enjoy medical journal type things. I like some of the more forensic side of true crime rather than massively violent bits. I think it'll be really interesting. I read Working Stiff last year and really enjoyed that, so like this is in my wheelhouse. It's completely fine, but I did think I was picking up Trace, which is about a woman's relationship with American history, and she is also Indigenous. I will put in the comments down below what book that actually is, in case you're interested in that, but I definitely just got confused between Trace and Traces, and just kind of grabbed it in a spur of the moment, like, oh, I think it's that one, and it was only later when I got home and I actually like had a proper look at it. I was like, this is the wrong book, but this is a book that I still think is going to be good and interesting and worth a read, because I like that whole sort of genre anyway. So happy accident. Who knows, maybe I will find a new favourite by accident, which is always fun. Last physical book that I've not read yet, because we are going to talk a couple of ebooks towards the end, and that is my monthly pick from Category Is Books, which is a little independent bookstore up in Scotland. Well, I have given them a lump sum of money, and in what they're doing is they're sending me a book each month that is either off my kind of general wish list or one that they think I will enjoy. So I'm really enjoying it. Their details are linked down below, as always, in my description box, as well as a few other independents that you can support in the UK who do ship books two people, and this one is Olivia Waite's The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics, and this is just a lesbian historical romance that sounds really fun and really entertaining. I believe it's about an astronomer, and yes, it's a translator who's translating a French astronomy text and ends up falling in love with the person who has commissioned its wife. So I think this is going to be really good. It's kind of one of these cheeky little mass market paperbacks. I've not read a historical romance in ages. I've been very much hanging out in the contemporary area, so I think this will be great fun. So those are the physical unread books. I have 2 physical read books to show you, and then we're going to move on to the 7 or 8 books I bought on my Kindle as well. So the read books, the first one you'll have seen in my, in fact you'll have seen both of these in my TBR because they were both buddy reads. So I have completed both of them. One of them is Girl, Women, Other by Bernadine Evaristo. This was the winner of the Booker Prize last year, and is kind of a collection of almost like interconnected short stories, kind of individual vignettes about 12 women in the UK, and sort of from all sorts of different backgrounds. Most of them are black, and it is about intersectionality in all of its different forms, and kind of the sort of almost characters who are so stereotypical that they are actually real, or so real that they almost feel stereotypical. It's really kind of playing with those lines. I read it already and I really enjoyed it. I think it's kind of a 4-star read, and I'm going to talk more about it in my wrap up, but very good fun. And I actually bought it in the same order as Silver Sword and Stone, and are these two not some of the most like aesthetically pleasing books to put together? Like, I love the colours in both of these. Very, very cool. And then the other read book is Qualityland by Marc Uwe-Kling. This is a translated book. It's translated from German, and it's kind of like a dystopian fiction that is taking so many motorbikes. Taking a concept of like algorithms that really sort everything for your life and stretching it to the nth degree. So it's a world where jobs are entirely determined by algorithms, your partner's determined by algorithms, things are shipped to you without you even needing to order them. It's like, you know, advertising to the absolute extreme. It is such a cool, clever, quirky, interesting book. I would heavily recommend it to anybody who is interested in like dystopia or sci-fi. Thought it was so like overtly clever and also subtly like there's so much going on in this. I think I'm planning on doing a full review, and I buddy read it with Amy from Amy Gets Lit, and she also really enjoyed it. It's amazing, so I would totally recommend. Great book. So those are the physical ones, and now I'm going to be talking about the ebooks that I picked up. And again, I'm going to go through books I haven't read yet, and then I think there's only one that I've read so far out of this list. Also, apologies, none of these are showing their authors, so the authors will be listed down below, but I've just got my Amazon app pulled up because my Kindle is dead of battery, so this is the way that we're doing this. So I picked up Wicked Fox, which is a paranormal romance. I believe it's inspired by Japanese mythology, and what's fun about this one is I know that the leading lady is the one who is the kind of mythical creature. Quite often in paranormal romance it is the guy who is the kind of paranormal creature in some way, and often because of that has more power than the often human woman who he is sort of courting or whatever. So it'll be really fun to try one out where it is the woman who actually is the kind of big bad. Then I picked up a non-fiction which is Black and British, A Forgotten History, and this is by David Olusoga, I believe. I might know the author of that one. This is a huge tome. It's like an extensive look at British history in connection with black people, and it is supposed to be absolutely phenomenal. I also got it on audiobook because the Whisper Sync kind of offer was really, really good on it, and it's like a 28-hour audiobook, so it's going to be a major commitment, and I'm not too sure when I'm going to read it, but I've heard only good things and I'm very, very intrigued. Then we have a cheeky little contemporary romance in there, and that's One to Watch, and this is about a woman who basically criticises a dating show because all the people who are on it are all of the same body type and she is bigger, and it is about them then suggesting that she comes on the show and kind of her trying to find love. It's conversations about sort of body acceptance, body awareness, and also about like the media and being in the public eye and that kind of thing, and I've heard really good things. It's supposed to be good fun. Then I have Sealskin, which is some kind of mermaid story, kind of riffing off of the Selkies idea, which I think is Irish mythology, but I'm not too sure, and that looks really cool. I really want to get to that one soon. That one looks really entertaining. Then there's The Radium Girls, which is a non-fiction, which is specifically about the women who were painting radium which glows before we knew that radium was bad onto watch faces, so that the hands and the numbers glowed, but then because of that the paintbrushes they used to like put in their mouth to like sort out the tips, and then that way they could kind of paint all the fine lines, but it meant that they basically ended up with like really severe radium poisoning, and it's about their struggle to try and get like financial compensation and kind of medical help for it, and in doing so the ramifications that there were about work safety because of that. So I think it's gonna be really interesting from like a science and also history of science kind of background, and again I've heard super positive things about this one. Then I picked up The Dragon Republic, which is by F Kuang. This is the second book in the Poppy War series. I have not read book 1 yet. I also have it on ebook, but basically it was like £1 or £2, and I was like, if you read Poppy War and really love it, you'll kick yourself that you don't have the next book, so it's super cheap, why not? So that was part of the logic to that one. All of these I got for like really cheap, which is definitely how I end up interacting with my Kindle. It's all just filled with cheap spur of the moment purchases or books that I struggle to get in the UK. And then the last unread one is The Spare Bedroom, and this again is another contemporary romance, and I believe this is one where a couple breaks up but she has to stay in the spare bedroom because she can't move out immediately for whatever reason, and then he ends up hooking up with somebody else, and it's about kind of the tensions there. I believe, I could be completely wrong about that. And then the final book in this book haul is Devolution by Max Brooks. I have now read this. I have a review on Goodreads which will have way more information in it. I listened to it a mixture of audiobook and physical book because I did the Whisper Sync technology again. It's from the guy who did World War Z, and it's about it's like a found footage idea analysis. Sorry, there is a fly on my camera. There we go. The window's open in the other room and we get flies in here occasionally. That's what happens when you live right near a butcher's. It's not actually very nice. Good thing we're moving. Anyway, sorry, I was talking about the Yeti book. Basically, a volcano eruption forces in America, like a band of Yetis to descend on this tiny little commune, and it's about them like eating all the people. It's actually a really, really stupid book and wasn't very good. I think I gave it 3 stars in the end. But the audiobook, like the narrator committed to that, which meant that my stupid ass brain got like really freaked out by it, and it did trigger a couple of night terrors, so I had a couple of sleepless nights thanks to it. So I have mixed feelings about this book, because in terms of doing a horror, it like technically it did quite well because it did freak me out, but actually it's a really stupid book. The characters are stupid and a lot of the formatting doesn't work. So if you want all my full thoughts on that, please do check out the Goodreads review. I wrote like a mini essay on it, and I may do a full breakdown of a review on camera at some point if I can be bothered to go a bit ranty, but I don't have the energy for that right now. So those are all the new books on my shelves before we move, because of course the most sensible thing to do when you're about to move house is to buy, what, like 10, 15 new books? Yeah, that makes sense. I think some of these are going to be appearing on my October TBR. I'm really excited to lean into the spook this year. I don't always do that, so I think it's going to be good fun. Let me know what you think. Have you read any of these yet? Has anything jumped its way onto your TBR because of that? Like, just everything in the comments down below. You know the drill by now. Have a wonderful reading week, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye!